welcome to Work the Left Side. I am joined this week by Ethan, the man, Odyssey Pro Wrestling. We are here to chat and basically just discuss the awesomeness that is Odyssey. Obviously, anybody who's been there knows how real it is. And yeah, just the experience. Dude, how are we doing?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Just excited for this.
Yeah,
because like I was saying before we started rolling, you know, anybody who's watched any episodes, the guys that I've talked to in the past, when one thing does come up, or as soon as I find out that they've worked at Odyssey, dude, my brain just goes yes, and I'm like, right, let's talk about that, because I don't. Obviously, you guys must be aware of the reputation.
Yeah,
it's awesome, mate. It's just like, so yeah, obviously you're aware of it. Something you guys are proud of.
It's incredible, and it's almost got absolutely nothing to do with us. It's 100% the crowd, and as being someone that is from Morecambe, that's really sort of like it's special because it's not fans that are like super hardcore, super into wrestling, super, it's families, it's people that want to go out and do things with their family, go out and do things together, and there's just something really special in that energy. And I think that's what really makes Morecambe so special, is just that it brings people together from all walks of life, whether you're a wrestling fan, whether you're a not wrestling fan, whether you're just there for the family aspect of it, whether you're there for the athletics, whatever it is, there's just something that keeps bringing people back, and that's pretty amazing.
Definitely, dude. Because that's wrestling. At its core basics. It's a show. It's entertaining. It's there to be enjoyed by all. Like I said, yeah, you've got that family vibe going on where people are there. People are just enjoying the experience. It's something for the family to do together. It's something for them to look forward to all month until the next show.
Yeah.
And then for them to talk about until the next show, kind of thing. So, yeah, kudos, mate. Because I think it's generally awesome. I say it's awesome. There are tears, as Reese told me when he was on. Just the glee he took in making a small child cry.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, he loves that, but one of us has always got to go and sort it out afterwards. To be fair, that was a good one. However, there is the one that a lot of people talk about is when Ryan Hunter turned heel in Morecambe, and I think like what made that extra sort of impactful was the sort of steps that led up to it. To give you a sort of brief bit of history on sort of Morecambe wrestling, Odyssey built its foundations on Morecambe wrestling history. It's not like there's people like Ryan Hunter, like Craig Collins, like Andre Decker, Rick Marcus, and so many others that have they've wrestled in Morecambe for years and years and years. And Ryan was such a big, he was the babyface of Morecambe for a long time. So Morecambe went through, Morecambe wrestling itself dates back to like the FWA, Alex Shelley headlining the Morecambe Dome against Raven to 350 people or whatever it was at the time, leading through sort of XWA, paid promotions, Alpha Omega, and all this. Ryan came from, he was one of the fans almost, like he came in as a cameraman and trained to be a wrestler and built himself up until in Alpha Omega he became the champion and he was the guy just before the end. But he was the big popular baby face. And then fast forward, Ryan spent the first year as our big baby face, as the guy in Morecambe again. He was the first Odyssey Pro Wrestling champion. The fans were ecstatic when he won the title, you know, and then we built towards the triple threat match, which was Ryan Hunter versus Andre Decker, who was a member of the Spotlight, and RPD. And going into that match, there was really interesting angles coming at it from all sides, because Decker and RPD had been feuding up to this point. A lot of the talk going into that match was Decker and RPD. So how do you leave with Ryan Hunter being the one that's talked about? Do you know what I mean? And that when that turn happened, the silence in the room, you could bottle that. It's like it's weird because you never want silence in wrestling, but that's the silence you want.
Unless they're genuinely gobsmacked and you've just left them speechless.
And what makes that even better is I think he sold about 15 t-shirts that night. So you can actually, our amazing production team, so Brian, who's our tech wizard, and Lucy Simons did the 12 Days of Christmas matches, and I believe the Triple Threat is actually one of those 12 Days of Christmas matches. So if you go back and watch that, I think it's on our YouTube page. You can see the moment when one of the fans down the front row is taking their shirt off and throwing it on the floor and like giving it all the beans. And yeah, it was, there was certainly, passion that night.
It's, to basically summarize, it's in Morecambe's universe. That was like Hogan joining the NWO.
Yes, completely.
Do you know what I mean? The biggest babyface you've got turns flat out heel.
And we were very careful with it as well. Like, it honestly, up until the moment it happened, we almost called it off. Like, we were unsure as to whether it would work, how the fans would take it, like, and it's one of those, like, you've heard about, like, the curtain sellout, like where everybody was in the gorilla area, like, watching the match, waiting for the moment. And it's one of those you just had to be really careful with. You had to sort of lean into Ryan, sort of, because we could have done it and it could have just come out of absolute nowhere, and why is that happening? Morecambe understood it, and Morecambe went with it because we built to it. It wasn't just, this has happened now, get used to that. Like, they sort of, we made them look at this now as well. And that sort of, it was still on the outside. Like, it was still a case of Ryan was still there, and Ryan was still main eventing the shows, and Ryan was still doing this and that, but Ryan wasn't the loudest cheer that night on the shows. It was the fans were cheering for RPD. So it only kind of, the story naturally told itself anyway.
Yeah, that's it. You got this, jealousy, successor, why is everybody looking at him, talking about him when they should be talking about me? It's a perfect flow, and it makes 100% sense.
Yeah.
Which is why, it's probably so well. Obviously, it wasn't well received in the sense of, it left them speechless. They weren't happy about it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, Ryan actually had to wait until every fan had left the building before he could come out the back as well.
I love it. But based on your T-shirt, I'm going to make a wide presumption that obviously, comic books, things like that.
Yeah.
The best bad guys are the ones that actually have a believable reason. The ones that think they were right or they were justified in their actions. They're the best bad guys.
And that's it. Like, the group that Ryan joined as well. So we had the Spotlight, which was headed up by Chris Brooker, who, don't let him catch me saying it, but he's brilliant. Like, he can make a crowd sing a tune that he wants them to. So, like, the very, very first show we did, when we set sail, he came out like a drunken uncle at the sort of start of the second half, and he went on this like 5-10 minute like speech to the crowd, and sort of like brought them up and then shut them down, and brought them up and then shut them down, and all this sort of stuff. And then over time, he recruited Reese and Rogan, and then he recruited Decker. And then, you know, because he's a stand-up comedian, he brings the lights and the glam and the, you know, all the eyes onto his clients. And, you know, so who better for Ryan to join than the spotlight when all eyes are veering off of him?
Yeah.
So,
Again,
yeah.
it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So the story flows and it's logical.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, yeah. And again, it's wrestling 101. You tell a good story, you get people invested, you get the reactions, you get them on the edge of the seats. Jobs are good.
Yeah. So it's science, isn't it? So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So by understanding what the reaction should be, it's a little bit of understanding what the reaction should be, but it's also a little bit of understanding of what people want the reaction to be. And if you can make them want a little bit more, you can pull it out and you can pull it out. And that spotlight story sort of that lasted for about 2 years, you know, from sort of initial concept of the spotlight as a group up until Chris Brooker being kicked out of Odyssey Pro Wrestling, and you know, we had me and him were both co-general managers at the time, and it was Team Brooker versus Team Ethan, and you know, we were able to build that story over 2 years, because we always linked it back to, well, this is the end, this is the end, this is where we are. What are those steps in between that are going to leave fans wanting more from that?
So obviously, so I mean, when that started, you know, did you have it in your head it was going to be like a 2-year arc? Was it meant to be a 1-year arc? It was doing so well, it kind of got extended. Obviously, I presume it wasn't done month by month, just winging it kind of thing. You must have had, you know, a start and an end, and you just working.
So we always write from the end backwards. So War on the Shore for us, which is our April show, is always that's our WrestleMania show. Do you know what I mean? And again, like if we link it back to history, the reason we went with War on the Shore is because there's been about, I think I want to say somewhere in the region of 15 War on the Shore events in Morecambe, because that's a show that links back to the FWA. So we're like, cool, there's heritage, let's bring that in. But also the timing of it, it's every April because that's when WrestleMania is. Like if I'm a casual viewer, then I'm paying attention to wrestling at 2 points of the year. I'm paying attention during WrestleMania season, and I'm paying attention during the Rumble. We have a Rumble show around about the Royal Rumble. So we do it very, I mean, a lot of places probably do the same thing, but we double down on the WrestleMania aspect April time as well, or so I think it's the end of March this year. But it's sort of within that window of WrestleMania. So that's the sort of point where we're like, okay, what does that show look like? What's our first show look like? And what's the, you know, now that we've got that outline, let's color that in. With the whole spotlight saga, I suppose, what happened was we knew when the turn was going to happen. We just got to it, and then from there it was like, well, this writes itself, and this writes itself, and this writes itself. So let's carry on with that. And you know, we just sort of we stop and sort of plan out like this is what's going to happen, but also we'll ride the wave with it as well.
That's it. Yeah, you kind of got a path, but every now and again, I presume based on reactions or you know, God forbid, injuries or anything like that kind of thing, you have to detour every now and again, I presume, or you just veer off a little bit.
Yeah, and a great example would be where the best thing about being a story-based company is that we've always got another story ready to come in and take over, and another one ready to come in and take over. So I think it was, where are we? It was about June last year that the Spotlight story finished. I say finished, sort of the main bit ended, and then it wound down, and then it became something else. But the other story that then emerged really was the Freak Show story with Isaiah Quinn and Will Carter and you know, all that. And that was never supposed to happen at all. That was fully on those group of guys. So what originally happened was we introduced the Freak Show, who Will Carter and Nightmare, who both predominantly wrestle out of KOW and Barrow. A few of our guys have worked quite heavily with KOW, and they're quite good friends. And those were two people who were like, "Cool, you're a great tag team. Come on in." When we'd originally planned to do Odyssey in the first place, the first name that we all sort of unanimously agreed we wanted to bring in to this character-based promotion, this story-based promotion, was like Isaiah Quinn. What was the one at the top. And when he stopped wrestling, it was a case of that's really annoying. But then, because he's incredible and because he's really versatile and he can just adapt and do what he needs to do, he became a manager, and we were like, "Ah, there we go. That works there. Brilliant." And we wanted to bring in an old character and convert him. So we brought in a character called Mark Meltzer. That was his name. And he had this character where he would he would embody his favorite wrestlers from the 80s. So he'd done the Hulk Hogan, he'd done the Undertaker and the Ultimate Warrior and all these sorts of stuff back in the Alpha days. And we wanted to bring him in. And the first thing we started doing was making him, well, he sort of leaned into this quite well, which was brilliant, was he started using villain characters. He started using Roddy Piper and the Big Boss Man and these people. And Isaiah Quinn's thing was, I want to see the real Mark Meltzer. I'm not seeing you. I'm seeing the character that you're trying to portray. I'm not seeing who you are as a person. And we turned Mark Meltzer heel, and he became Sheriff Steele. He dropped Mark Meltzer, and that was done. And we were fully ready to almost do the Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt thing, where Mark Meltzer didn't like what he was seeing, and so he was going to step away from the Freak Show because of the way that Will Carter was being treated. Like he would see Will getting punished, and he would be a bit hesitant. He'd be like, "Oh, I don't know about doing this." See, the problem was that was the plan. Everyone then started cheering for Will, and over time, as these punishments kept happening to Will, the noises just got louder and louder and louder, and we were like, "Well, it's going to have to be Will now, isn't it? Like we can't just swerve that and make Will the heel again." And there's legs with Will, not that there wasn't with Sheriff Steele, but there was just this sort of reaction from the crowd, and the couple of members of the crowd have come up with the We Love Will Club. Which is brilliant, and we were like, "Well, we can't do that now, can we? You've got to be Will." So the problem is, Will's now become like second to RPD, and he's challenging for first, as the new sort of big baby face that we've got going on. And it's a case of, well, we want, Will's doing excellent. How can we stifle him a little bit? Not in a sense of like from the crowd perspective, but where's the difficulty in the story? We want him to get to here. What's the challenges he's got to face? So that's where, Isaac North came in, and he was someone that we wanted to bring in very early on. And we thought, no, let's not jump the gun. Let's take our time with this. We know we want to use him. We know how we want to use him. We don't have to bring him in right now. And we were patient. And again, now, when it looked like Will was going to succeed, the game changed.
That's it. Yeah, well, that's, he thinks he's got the answers. You just change the questions.
Exactly.
So, massive shout out to Isaac North as well. I had the pleasure of speaking to him a couple of years ago. He's coming back on again soon. The dude's just gone on strength to recently. I seem to see him popping up in loads of places at the minute. The guy's absolutely holding it. Yeah,
we had him in. We did a TLC triple threat tag team TLC match recently, which was the Meat Wagon, formerly known as Synergy. I think it was the last match of Synergy, one of the last matches of Synergy. Reese and Rogan, Isaac North, and Sheriff Steele. And oh my god, that man's sadistic. There's no other word for it. He's, some of the chops that it honestly sounds like an actual gunshot has gone off. There's some people have got some really good chops on them, but until you see Reese and Isaac North having a chop off against each other, where they're actually trying to put their hand toward through each other's back, like from the front, like through each other. Like, oh my god.
I can only imagine. Like I say, and the thing is, I can try and direct people to like YouTube, to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to do it any justice.
Yeah.
You've got to be there. You've got to hear that. Like, just imagine, like, not to besmirch Jericho, but I can imagine everybody walking around with like a Jericho chest afterwards, where it looks like ouch.
Yeah.
So,
the weirdest thing I find with Isaac North though is the amount of fans that are thirsting after him at the minute. Like he's become a little bit of a sex symbol, and I don't know how to feel about it.
I would be slightly concerned in the sense of
this is it. I'm like, hang on a minute, this man that comes out in like white and black face paint, and his black, his tongue's all black, and he's like, eh. and fans are like that, that they want it. So again, just a little random tangent story. So we, as part of our front row and second row VIP packages that we do, you also get like a photo with one of the wrestlers or a group of the wrestlers. So anyone that signs up to our Patreon can vote on who they want to be the wrestler to take the photo. And one of the shows, a show or two ago, the Freak Show, like I think they came third in that vote, and typically, like you can tell, it's always the baby faces. They always want the baby faces. They always want RPD or Will or Leah Raven or Alexander Gray or whoever, or Rick Marcus. Like that one, we get quite a lot as well. And all of a sudden, the Freak Show is starting to like climb up there for the ranks, and I genuinely just believe it's because of all the women want to take a picture with Isaac North.
Something about a bad boy, man. I'm telling you, even if it's
like the bad boy thing, isn't it?
Even if it's a very deranged bad boy,
oh god.
I mean, dude. I mean, I'm the age. I remember like when True Blood came out, and everybody was Eric Hoffman. It's the boy.
Like some sort of like Isaac North sex symbol T-shirts made.
Dude, that would fund the next 5 shows. You just get sold out, mate. But yeah, talking about the talent there, obviously you just mentioned Synergy, or Meatwagon as they're now known. Your roster, mate, you've just literally had some of like amazing talent sort of coming through. Reese and Rogan, probably one of my top 3 tag teams in the country at the minute. Those 2 guys are just absolutely amazing. Obviously I had the pleasure of speaking to Rogan. Hopefully I'll get to speak to both of them at some point soon. And RPD, that guy is just one of my favorite people ever.
Yeah,
just think. Obviously, you was there for the start of the journey, really, when you guys played a massive part. Getting the ball rolling.
Yeah, so we'd seen that he had debuted at GPW, and with. There's something about like that boxer's mentality with him. He's just really. I've never seen a man inspire a crowd the way he does. He can get you on side, but he also has his guys that come with him as well. Like, because I imagine in boxing is very much like. You're going to go do a boxing match, you pretty much have to pack the crowd yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got kind of no choice. And he pretty much does that with Odyssey as well. Like, he creates such a atmosphere for him. You can't help but then get involved in that atmosphere. So, if you've never watched him before, you're all of a sudden, you come out of the show and you're a fan of his because A, he's got such a big fan support, but B, you can see that he's doing it for the crowd.
It's genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. He does everything like very intentionally and very sort of. He's doing it for. He's not doing it for himself. Like you can never ever accuse him of doing that. Like he's always doing it for someone else and for other people and to kind of. To bring hope and things like that. He's the closest thing we actually have to a superhero at the minute. Like, and yeah, like coming from the beginning, like it's one of those where you also want to be very, very careful about like nurturing it as well. Like, we could see right from show one, you know, the moment he had his match with Scotty Rourke, and then he got the microphone and spoke to the crowd, you could have put a belt on him then. You really could. But you make people want it. More, that little bit more, and you drag it as long as you physically can. RPD didn't get a title in Odyssey until we were well into our second year. It was the second War on the Shore that he won the title. We could have done that way sooner, but that's how, like, he's such a team player, and he's such a he's doing it for the fans. He knows, you know, he's always got their best interests at any time, and it's just really exciting to see.
Yeah, no, I fully agree, because it's just sort of like, so it's just an amazing story across several promotions, you know, wherever RPD goes, kind of thing. It's just it's the evolution of the character, of the person. You just seen him become, you know, what everybody knew he would be as soon as they saw him, kind of thing. So talking about obviously, you know, very story based. I'm an old school fan. I like seeing faces chase the belt. By the time, from just talking to you, you know, for like 30 minutes and what we've been talking about, it's all about the chase.
Yeah.
That's the Odyssey mantra.
And
I'm the good guy.
It's quite an interesting spell at the minute, because Ryan is the champion, you know, RPD is the champion, and it's then like, how do you create chase when they've already achieved the title? Well, you have to chase something else, you know. So you have to chase records, you have to chase, you know, righting wrongs, you have to chase, you know, all these sorts of things. Like, and all the matches that Ryan's had since he's become champion have been very sort of specific and purposeful. You know, he defended the title against Ryan. He's defended the title against Lance. He was involved in getting rid of the spotlight. He's now going to be wrestling Sam Bailey at our next show, Overboard, which is a rematch. So they've had two matches before. They're 1-1. So Sam Bailey is the only person to have pinned. Is one of two people, sorry, to have pinned RPD in Morecambe. The other one was Ryan Hunter. So, you know, he's coming for that. He's beaten Sam Bailey in Blackpool. They're 1-1. What happens next? Do you know what I mean? Like, where does that go? Because do we do the very obvious thing and RPD retains and he carries on being the big champion, or do we do something unexpected? Do you know what I mean? And you know,
well, like you said, you've got Will just under as well, though. You know, you've got, once he gets past North, if he's able to slay the monster kind of thing, at some point he's gonna start that chase.
So and then there's that point, you know, like so this is the thing, like the thing you always want to do is you want to create threads, and you want to be able to pull them at any point. You don't just want to have them there and, oh, that's the thread, you know, we've got to do this. You have those threads there ready to go. What if Sam is the only person that has got Ryan's number in Morecambe? What if Will is able to, because we've not officially announced him yet. I suppose this is official announcement, but Will's going to be in the Overboard Rumble. The winner of the Overboard Rumble gets to cash in they would win a contract which they can cash in at any time on an Odyssey Pro Wrestling show. I have to make that very specific, because there was one year someone tried to cash it in and the show had finished, so it didn't count. So what if Will wins that thing? Would he go after RPD and do whatever it takes to win the title? Would he challenge him outright? Would he have RPD to challenge? You know, there's also been another person, you know, there's been some mystery, like creepy videos that have been playing and plaguing Ryan recently around his title defenses. So, like, sort of after the shows happened, like after the matches happened, then the spooky video started playing where someone's like clutching a photo of RPD and is like destroying it, and you know, and then after the last match where with Lance, after sort of Lance was able to pin for 3 under dubious circumstances, so we had to restart the match. But Rick Marcus had sort of come at Ryan's RPD's tag partner and friend, had come out and sort of supported him in that moment. And while the two of them were stood in the ring, another video played, and there's just this, like, who's this mystery person that's got RPD in his sights? Is that going to be someone chasing RPD for the title, or is that someone chasing RPD for what he stands for? And when does that sort of stuff kick in? And do you know what I mean? It's anything can happen at any time, and that's what I think Morecambe's really getting used to as well. Is like, what's the next step of the story?
And that's key. That's key for me as a wrestling fan. Which I've been to, like numerous promotions, XY, hundreds of shows. Some promotions are very story heavy. Some exhibition match heavy kind of thing. But I think a lot are getting on the same sort of wave now, where it's like story is key.
Yes.
Moments matter more than spots, X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I think that's what always makes me want to go back to a promotion every time. It's just the storytelling.
I think with Morecambe as well, with Odyssey, we try to be very specific in there's people that out there that are better wrestlers than some of the people on our roster. Just straight up. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some people on our roster that wrestle in Morecambe and like one other place. So people like Will Carter and Nightmare and Lucas Neon all pretty much only wrestle for us and KOW. Oh, sorry, they wrestle in the Kingdom of Wrestling in Southport as well. They were another great promotion. They wrestle there, and that's sort of it. Whereas you've got some people that are doing all over Manchester, all over Liverpool, down to Sheffield, and here, there, But when Will comes out, or when Lucas Neon, who's another really popular babyface, comes out, the reaction is so... It lifts the room every time, because they're invested in these people. So you might want to find, we might bring someone in that is well traveled and well seasoned and has been here, there, and everywhere and can do all these things. But this is it. So I've watched matches in Morecambe that technically have been absolutely brilliant, and I've watched them wrestle to crickets. I've watched some people get in the ring and do 5 moves apiece, and that's it. And it's the loudest thing in the... Do you know what I mean? And that's the kind of difference, and that's when Morecambe's different to a lot of places, is wrestling's like third down on their pecking order for the show. Like, they love it. They're coming out to the wrestling, but they're not that bothered about the wrestling. Like, they're bothered about the drama and the action and like, what's the story going to happen next? Not, that was a really good wrist lock, that, and that is for some people. That there is a place for everything, and everything has a place. Like, wrestling to me is a variety show. It's theatre. To some people, wrestling is a display of sporting acumen, and that's absolutely fine. This is my wrestling. I like the theatre of it because I'm a big theatre nerd. So how can I tell a story? How can I bring up a crowd, to bring them down, to bring them back up again, to make them look this way while this is happening, to just make the crowd... Like, to me, Odyssey, to me, is the MCU. We have an overarching story, and every show is a movie. So every show has got to work in the context of beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
The story as an overall piece has to work on... Someone could come to one show and watch it and understand what's going on. Someone could come to watch it and get rewarded because they've seen everything. That's wrestling.
Yes, exactly. And like you said, that's not a bad thing, because I think as well, to a lot of the fans, people that are coming, the kids, obviously, we're old school in the sense of, I don't know about Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, guys, technical guys like that. But wrestling, it's sports entertainment. It's very sporty people entertaining the crowds by telling stories. That's as much as your New Japan diehard smart fans want to fight against it. That's why WWE is at the top of the game, because they're very story driven. The key focus isn't always on the quality of the matches. It's what it's trying to, the point it's getting across.
No, exactly. So like if we take like New Japan and WWE as examples, so WWE is Disney. It's very digestible. It's stories. It rewards you in the long term, but it also, like, especially now, it's starting to do it again, where it's rewarding you in the long term. But it's also very bright and it's very colourful and it's very easy to go for the kid to go, I like that one because they're wearing green or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And from a business perspective, if we put your business hat on, I'm selling my show to the families and the children, because every child I sell a ticket to, and adults coming along as well. So I'm not selling one ticket, I'm selling two. Cool. And how do I get them to keep coming in? Well, I tell a story, and that's what gets them to come in. New Japan and the sort of Japanese styles of wrestling are a very different kind. They're not Disney. They're sort of Warner Brothers, like action, adventure, like, but it's sort of like 3 hour, like who the actor, like Zack Snyder sort of thing, where it's darker and it's like, you know what, this 4 hour epic and this is what you're going to see, and like they're still telling stories. That's the thing. Like the people that get really invested in New Japan are the ones seeing the story. I remember, like, I think I was flicking through like TikTok or wherever it was, and I saw like Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley, and the first match, Will Ospreay was able to get Jon Moxley because he kept surprising him. Like Jon Moxley wasn't expecting him to counter in this way or that way. The following match they had, Jon Moxley was able to counter the counters because he knew what to expect now. From a child's perspective, they're going to struggle to see that a little bit because it's happening for 40 minutes at a time and it's doing this, and they're not gonna, like, I can't get my kids to sit down and watch 90 minutes of football. Like they're not going to sit down for like 40 minutes of wrestling and then another 40 minutes 3 months down the line and like try to make the callbacks from there. That's fine. That's for a certain subset of fans. This subset of fans are the ones I'm dedicating to. And as I say, like, it works. Like that's the brilliant, like, there's no like one size fits all for anything. Everything's genre based. It's just my wrestling is family wrestling, but there's also an action and adventure wrestling, which I might watch every now and then. You know what? Like I've seen a lot of hype for this thing. Cool, I'll give that a watch and see if I enjoy that. Or you know what? I'm going to watch some deathmatch wrestling because that's a different thing. If I like horror movies or whatever, or I'm going to watch absurd comedy wrestling that breaks all the fourth walls and things like that. And it's just different things for different people. I just know I'm so used to writing for my like Disney-esque wrestling, but I'm trying to do it in a way that's sort of like, and this is where I come back to the MCU. I'm aiming it at kids, but I also want the adults to be involved. So I'm not writing a cartoon because that's a very different thing in itself. I'm writing this.
Before I get absolutely chewed out in the comments, I know New Japan's got stories. I wasn't implying it. It didn't. I'm just saying, the more long-winded stories.
Yeah, they're a lot more long-term, and they're a lot more like minutia based, if that makes sense. So like you're looking for, you have to look for it a little bit more, which is fine for some people. Like that, their brains are being activated in certain ways by certain things. It's just, I like mine to be a little bit more simple. And that's...
Well, it's not just that. It's your audience. You target your audience. You've got, as we said from the get-go, from the episode, it's something for the families to do. People come to the shows. It's something people do as a family. They bring the kids. It's something they look forward to. Yeah, the kids aren't going to come if you are literally just melting their brains for an hour trying to explain this complicated story to them. They're just going to be like, I don't care. I want something that's easy to digest. And like you said, MCU, it's good guy versus bad guy. Yeah. Very straightforward. Job done.
And like, even I'll do it sometimes and I have to be taught down by the others, where like I'll want to do something where I think, oh, this will be really clever if we can do this, and they're like, we don't need to do that. And I'm like, yes, you're right. To me, like, one of the things we try to do is so our matches we'll set, like, the shortest match we do is about 8 minutes, or we try to get them to do it roughly around that sort of time. It's sort of like between 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, or about 12 to 15. It's sort of like the timings that we sort of work with. And you get some people that are kind of like, oh, I could do with a bit more time for this. And I'm like, it's what's going to grab attention, and it's what's going to get people to come back to that and make that memorable, and not have that like down for too long in the middle. It just sort of lets again, it's for the kids. It's like they're gonna process that really, really well if you do that in this amount of time, because it's enough time to come in and tussle and see who can get the upper hand, and then the bad guys get the upper hand, and the good guys coming back, the bad guy, oh no, and it doesn't need, not every match needs to be a 20-30 minute like classic. It's a variety show. Like, what are you guys doing? We're doing this. Cool, I'm going to stand up by doing this thing that nobody else is doing. Like, I think if more people sort of focused on what can I do that's different, what can I do that's going to stand out to someone that's going to remember it. And if you go with the kids, that you're always going to win.
Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody a while ago, and they sort of said that when they're booked on a show, they'll go in the back, they'll see what the matches are, and they'll see who else is on the card, and they'll be like, right, well, that guy's better than me at aerial, that guy's better than me at technician, technical, that guy's better than me at comedy. Right, there's nobody on here that's better than me at brawling. Right, okay, I'm bringing my brawling game tonight. Yes. That's going to make me stand out.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, to me, the best person I've ever seen do that is Sam Bailey. He came in, he looked at a sheet, no more than about 10 seconds. He went, cool, know what I'm doing. Just like that. And he goes out and he has a consistently great match on every show that he's on. And he's one of the reasons why we had a TV crew in our show in October, Panic Stations, for 22 Kids and Counting. So at some point, like, I know they just started the show up again, the latest season on Channel 5. So at some point, there'll be Odyssey on that. And it's going to be Sam Bailey and Jenna. And it was one of those matches where we were like, so we want this. Who's going to be able to do that? And sort of Sam. Yeah, there we go, Sam. We trust. Do you know what I mean? Like, we trust Sam. We know he's going to nail that. So easy done, because he just knows wrestling better than a lot of, like, most people. He can just sort of, he sees it 3-dimensionally, which a lot of people look at just certain angles, whereas he can see the whole. He always knows. And he's always like, I feel like he's always a step ahead of everyone because he can just do everything.
I was kind of imagining it might be in Sam's head's like the Matrix, we're just seeing numbers, and Sam's like,
he just sees wrestling holds instead, like.
But it's cool because he's a guy that kind of was under the radar for a few years. He was. I remember him being like huge in NGW, years ago when I went to watch him and stuff. Then he kind of seemed to be under the radar for a bit, but over the last year or so, seems to be on everybody's tongues again, more lips. Everybody's talking about him again, and it's like the guy's finally getting the flowers. I'm like, yes, Sam Bailey is awesome, and people are starting to remember that.
And that's the thing, like with Sam, he knows what he's doing, but he also, like, that if someone's come from Sam, that they know what they're doing as well, which is really, really, like, good to see. I live in Plymouth now, so I've moved from Morecambe and I live down in the southwest. So, but there was a guy that was at the wrestling school near me, who's just debuted on Future Shock now, because he lived in Plymouth, I think he was, and then he moved back to Liverpool. And I just said, go see Sam. That's what you need to do. His name's Matt Turnley, or Matty Turnley. It's Matty T. big fan of Matty T. And like he debuted on Future Shock the other day, and I think he was in the Lotto Thunder match. And he was I think he got as far as like the semi-final, and I was like, yeah. So because Sam knows what he's doing with these people, and he can see the talent and he can bring that out in people. And it really doesn't surprise me that the amount of people from Future Shock that are sort of Northwest based that are all over the country now because of coming through Future Shock.
Yeah, no, definitely, and massive shout out to obviously Future Shock and Sam. But obviously, the Odyssey thing. To kind of rewind it back to like you were saying before, where you could watch, potentially like a 5-star match and it'd be to like an audience of crickets kind of thing. But then you got your 5-move special job, and it just blows the absolute roof off the place. I'm doing episodes at the minute where me and James Carr we're going back through 97 and watching 97 pay-per-views, WCW, WWF. And that just sums up WCW for me in that era. From the what so far, the shows start with like Jericho, Malenko, Guerrero, guys like that putting on absolute masterclasses, and the audience are just kind of sat there, not really reacting to it. Nash comes out, Hogan comes out, Piper comes out. Not to besmirch those guys, but at this point, they are just like, we don't really have to do anything.
No, exactly. And I think that's a little bit like that's a little bit to blame of the person that's putting the show on as well. So for me, there's certain things that I like to tick off when doing a show. And what it does is there's a chance that it makes things a little bit formulaic, but then it means that you can play with the formula every now and then, and people don't know what to expect. So like, to me, good guy always like there's certain unwritten rules that like the bad guy comes out first and then it's the good guy. Except for the first match when I bring the good guy out first, because the crowd wants to cheer. So let them cheer that first, because there's always that like, yay, oh no, you're a bad guy, boo. No, send the good guy out first. Like, let them cheer and then let them boo. And then after that, like that opening match as well is training your crowd. You want to show your audience, like you almost want to tell your audience like how they need to react in the rest of the show. So you almost want like I'm going to say it wrong, but you want the basic formulaic like boo yay match, because then you're going to tell your audience what's going to happen later on down the line. And then when you're confident that you've got a show that you can maybe pull a trick with, and sort of, oh, hang on a minute, like I'm assuming the good guy's going to win because it's the first match, and wait, the bad guy's won. What's going on here? Like, it's you've got to assume, especially when your audience is full of kids, and again, it depends on the show that you're after. Like, if you're doing one of these like New Japan, like heavy hitting, fast paced kind of shows, put the most exciting match on first, bring them up, or not. Well, one of the most exciting matches, and bring them up. When you've got kids on, you need to show them what to do. Yeah. So put on a match with a really good baby face that comes out and shows the crowd how to cheer and when to react and when to do these things. And I guarantee you from there, they'll know what to do throughout the rest of the show. So you could then put on Dean Malenko versus Eddie Guerrero 2 on second on a family show, and them doing all the technical stuff, and they'll know what to do because they've just been told by the first match that when the good guy does something, you go yay, and when the bad guy does something, you go boo, and these are the things that the bad guy's going to do.
Yes, that's so very well put, and that explains, like you said, the mentality. Just you've got to, because again, as much as it's returning fans, every night you've got to kind of take into account there's got to be somebody new in the audience. Probably you kind of got to train them up.
Yeah,
on how to react. So that's the perfect analogy of that first match is key.
It's a bit like teaching. So like I, in my full-time job, I train apprentices. So we do a lot of work on like prior learning and sort of like finding the foundation and think like where the learner's at the start. That's what you got to do with wrestling. Like if you get in there and you realize that, hang on a minute, this crowd is reacting really like that they're coming up for everything. Cool, we can now do a bit more, or we can, you can use it as a barometer. But if you just assume that the water's a temperature and go and react to that temperature, you are going to stink the joint out, or it's going to be really quiet. And yeah,
that's cool. That's good. We kind of mentioned obviously Overboard earlier. That's obviously the next show. You mentioned obviously you got the Rumble in there. You've announced 3 matches. We've mentioned obviously RPD versus Sam. We haven't looked at Leah Raven's match.
Leah Raven is going to be defending the Odyssey Pro Wrestling Women's Championship against #1 contender Lily Winter, who defeated Holly Hudson at our last show of the year at Buried Treasure to become the #1 contender. And it's a really interesting match because Leah Raven has a loss to Lily Winter. However, former champion Jenny B was the special guest referee at the time. So, on the one hand, Leah Raven has a point to prove and all this, but Lily Winter does hold a victory. Lily Winter's got the momentum going into this one. So it's going to be really intriguing how that plays out.
And both ladies obviously absolutely smashed it. Leah has had an awesome last 12 months. She's definitely one to keep an eye on and a very, very good person to have as champion. I think she'll carry it very well.
And then so there's the RPD and Sam that we talked about. Reese and Rogan, who are tag team champions at the moment, they're defending their titles against debuting for us Act 2, which is one I'm really, really excited for. I'm really, really excited to see sort of Act 2's sort of really like fast-paced sort of like they're going to wind Reese and Rogan up, and I'm really interested to see that, and I'm really interested to see how they're going to react to that against Reese and Rogan, who are just dirty brawlers and are gonna like try and smash the face in.
Well, Act 2 will be just so over with the crowd as well. That's the kind of team that obviously the kids are gonna love. Yeah. They've got any Act 2 merch they're selling out.
Yeah, so, I mean, and what's going to be really interesting is how Act 2 are going to react to the Morecambe crowd. Like, is it going to be too much for them? I mean, to be fair, like Act 2 have challenged Subculture for the Impact Wrestling Tag Team Championships before. Like, they're no stranger to like high pressure situations. So that's going to be really interesting. But are they going to get a bit too into the noise of the crowd? That'll be really interesting to see.
That's it. I mean, there's one thing to say for, again, not to kind of categorize audiences and things like that, but one thing, putting on a match in front of a more grown-up fan base, like when they're meant to clap and appreciate and stuff like that. You've got this, like, as the tagline is, it's real in Morecambe. You've got that electricity. Just, I can imagine it very easily kind of unsettling some people. They could have wrestled in front of however many number of people, but they feel that electricity, the realness of the crowd. I can imagine it just making people be a bit like, oh shit,
exactly.
Okay, what do we do now?
Exactly. And then I think so. There's the Overboard Rumble as well, which we talked about. Which, as you say, the winner wins a contract challenge for the championship at any time. So we've not properly announced the guys in that yet. So I'm really interested to get those names out. And for me, I'm one that I don't like putting all the Rumble names out anyway. I like to sort of leave surprises and things like that in there. And like, there's nothing that disappoints me more on when a Royal Rumble comes around when I know who's going to be in the match. Like, it just when that 10 countdown happens, and then there's always that breathing room, and then the music plays, and it, like, you go back to like Edge coming out at the Royal Rumble, and that moment, and it's those are the special ones where it's like space, who's it going to be, and they're really, really exciting.
And then on the flip side, you've got Rey Mysterio instead of Bryan Daniel.
You do.
Daniel Bryan. But yeah, it's a tightrope, man. People are expecting something, and if you don't deliver, it's like, oh.
Yeah. So it could. This is it. Like, what's been quite funny is so this is the third Overboard Rumble. So the first one, RPD thought he'd won, but then Andre Decker, who hadn't actually properly been eliminated earlier in the night, came in and spilled him out. The second one, RPD did win. This is going to be the first one where RPD's not in the match at all. And it's the first time the fans haven't been like craving for him to be the champion. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see who the crowd are really passionately behind in that one, because there's a chance that that person could go and use that contract to wrestle RPD.
Dude, as I know, for you in your head, like you said, you know, you're creating stories, you know, with the theatre aspect kind of thing. This contract, this open-ended contract, must just be—it's either a dream for you or a nightmare, because your head could be going like 10 to the dozen with possibilities. Oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. What would I do?
Exactly, and it could be, you know, it could be anyone at any time, and it could be, like, to me, like, the Money in the Bank was one of the best things that's ever happened to wrestling, because it really introduced this contract thing. And my absolute favorite cash-ins have always been the ones that made you double take.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, sorry, what? Like, you know, even now, like RPD challenging John Cena ahead of time for One Night Stand. Brilliant, because and we've not really seen enough of that, where it's like, I'm going to take the power of this situation with this contract. It's always been, I'd like an easy win, please. Like, it's taking the power back. It's like, no, I'm going to wrestle you on my home turf in my situation. And then you get like absolute bangers like that One Night Stand match. Or even like when John Cena called out I think it was CM Punk was the champ at the time with the contract, and said, I'm going to wrestle you on this show at this time, and we're doing this on my schedule. Like, there's a power to that. And, you know, it puts a thing in there. But also, like, Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania. Did you know what I mean? There's so much that can happen.
That depends on who's got it, whether it's face or heel for me. I hate it when the face has got it and they do a sneaky cash in. To me, that's just, it suits the heel so well. It's like, yes, perfect. But yeah, like Cena, RVD, that's the most babyface thing you can do, is like, you know, you stand there, you stand tall, and you tell them when you challenge them.
But it's not just, I'm going to wrestle you next week and we're gonna, or at the pay-per-view, and like,
you still got that power, like you said. Yeah,
it's the power of like, oh, we're gonna wrestle for this in front of this particular set of fans. Do you know what I mean? It's like Punk winning the next briefcase and going, you know what, I'm going to cash it in, but next time we go to Chicago is when I'm cashing it in. Like, that's kind of like, it's calling your shot, and it's calling your crowd, and it's you know, playing it on home turf.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally get that as well. The like I said, yeah, it's one thing to address it, but you're still using the advantage. You're still wanting that home turf advantage kind of thing. That for me was why, well, just kind of segue off, but the Nikki Ash thing never worked for me when she cashed in. She was a wannabe superhero. It's like that, you just totally contradicted the characteristic of a superhero.
I think
that kind of killed the character for me, personally speaking.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, because like, she's someone that is so incredible and puts so much into absolutely everything. I think given time, it could have worked. But it was around that time when everything was just so yes, no, yeah, no, I don't like that. And something that they introduced at the start of the show would probably be gone by the end of the show. Like, you know, like that was the problem. Like, when you commit to something, regardless of what it is, people will buy in. Like, if you commit in a way that you're not trying to force it, but you're trying to sort of go like, this is the direction. And then, you know, like, let people get on board and then push, that the people will get on board. Do you know what I mean? It's.
But yeah, I'll just put on mentioning that, because I say, you know, based on you know what we've discussed, and as you sort of said, just your love of stories, your love of telling stories. Yeah, that contract, mate, is just going to be, like I say, it's a double-edged sword. It just gives you that creative freedom, and then you know, too much freedom, there's too many ideas.
Exactly. So speaking of like the contract and sort of referring back to the championship, I said earlier today on Twitter, actually, that I had another match announcement that we've not announced yet. So I think I'll do it now.
Wait, I'm going to see if this works before you announce it. To get this announcement, hit like and subscribe on this video in the next 5 seconds. Obviously, this is going live, so that's not going to work. But I just want to see if anybody would do it anyway. So yeah, bosh.
If we just stop there,
before the speakiness, you'd like to subscribe, announce.
So, at our last show, Lance Rivera took on RPD, and he did pin him 1, 2, 3 for the title. The problem was Lance Rivera used a hammer, and then stuffed it down his pants to hide it out of the way. Now the problem was the referee counted the 3. Then we noticed the hammer. We couldn't officially ring the bell to end the match, so we restarted the match. Okay. So Lance is feeling typically
besmirched,
hard done by. You know, he's feeling like he should be the rightful champion. So we want to give him an opportunity to get back there. So we're going to put him in a number 1 contenders match at Overboard against someone that for the whole year has been all or nothing, high stakes. Rick Marcus has been putting his career on the line in every single match that he's wrestled in this year. So he wants to be champion. He's said the next time he loses, he's going to retire. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Lance Rivera versus Rick Marcus as a number 1 contenders match. The winner will go on to main event War on the Shore against whoever the champion is. Okay. Now, here's the thing to kind of add a few little details. The very first match in Odyssey Pro Wrestling was Lance Rivera versus Rick Marcus. Rick Marcus won that one. Lance Rivera has been, in the past year, has been better than 90% of everyone I've watched. I'm not going to say 100 because it'll go to his head, but he has had such a coming out over the past year, and just sort of he's hitting new levels every time I see him. But Rick's also really, really passionate. But the question is, what then becomes the main event of War on the Shore? The combinations you can put together. Is it RPD and Lance because you've got their last match ended under quite questionable circumstances? Is it Sam Bailey and Lance? You know, they've had some great matches over at the Kingdom of Wrestling, and maybe they're going to bring that over to Morecambe. Is it going to be Sam Bailey versus Rick Marcus? They've never wrestled. No, they've wrestled one-on-one once before, and Rick's actually held the victory over Sam. So what could happen there? Or is it going to be RPD and Rick Marcus, born ready? But as we've said, the next time Rick loses, he's retiring. He's done.
So would Ryan want to be that guy to end his career?
But is Lance going to be that person as well? Because Lance was, as I say, Lance was the first person to open an Odyssey show with Rick. So there's history there as well. Is that going to be that full circle moment? Is that tag team that,
yeah, it's stuff like this that just kind of any good wrestling promotion will, as a fan, will make you fancy book the crap out of it in your head. Mm-hmm. And it's stuff like that. You're giving your fans possibilities well, if this happens, this could happen. If this happens, this could happen. And as a fan, that's why I loved AEW for the first few years when it started, because I was fantasy booking the crap out of that as a fan. And yeah, to me, that's just a sign of a good wrestling show. Nothing's written in stone. You always talk about what if. Again, to go back to the MCU, what if? The whole series about it.
And this is it. And as I've said, every show has to be its own film. There's going to be casualties along the way. It's just one of those casualties going to happen.
Dude, I've just clocked the time. I'm just actually just wow. I think we will. We'll have to have another chat at some point.
Yeah,
it's been awesome. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Don't want to go on too long though.
Absolutely, I've got another episode of The Traitors to go watch. Got another episode of Traitors to go watch.
Well, there you go. Yeah, please don't let me stop you from doing that. But obviously, just plug your stuff, mate. Let people know where they can sort of find you on the socials. Keep their eyes out for show posters, announcements, tickets, everything.
Absolutely. So Odyssey Pro Wrestling, you can find everything pretty much by searching Odyssey Pro Wrestling, OPW, odysseyprowrestling.co.uk, OPW_UK on Twitter, and then at Odyssey Pro Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram. My stuff is at Ethan Announces on Twitter and Instagram. And going to give a plug to something else I'm doing just slightly. And we can talk. Another reason to come on next time and talk about it is going to be Tamar Community Wrestling, which is based outside of Plymouth in the Cornwall side in Saltash. We're doing a charity show that's raising money for Plymouth Hospital's Keep Me Close appeal. And so far we're on about £500 raised. And I think we've announced one match so far. So that's something that we're going to be doing on March the 9th. So, you know, I'm setting for a really busy year. Odyssey Pro Wrestling is going to be on February 3rd. Tamar Community Wrestling on March the 9th.
Right. So, right, I'll make this promise now then. So if we chat again towards the end of February, it doesn't have to be for an hour. It can just be a 10, 15-minute chat about the charity event.
Yep.
We'll do the announcements for the matches. I'll do what I can do to help, you know,
Thank you very much.
Out.
Yeah,
sweet. Yeah, so obviously I'm going to spam your socials over the next few days, so apologies in advance for that. But
not a problem. There's loads of clips now that we can put out. So,
but yeah, please obviously hit like, subscribe. You know, on this video. Also, if you follow us on the socials, anytime I tag Odyssey in something, if you aren't following them, click on them, follow them. Look at the shows that they've got coming up. Look at the talent on the posters. Just show support, and yeah, you know, get to a show. Hopefully I will get to one at some point. Like I said, I need to experience the electricity. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe. As I said, we will see you again very, very soon. And obviously keep your eyes out on WTLS 420 on Twitter or X for obviously, you know, upcoming guests and episode announcements. And we will see you very soon. See you in a bit.